The Dallas Mavericks getting ever closer to clinching a playoff spot and potential top 6 seed in the West.
Nick, are you ready to lead this podcast or are you ready to be in this podcast?
I'll get my opportunities on today's Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Engstead, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the play-in pony, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We're so close. We're close. It's crazy.
I thought you were going to give me a nay right there. Like, nay.
That's something Mavrella would do.
Mavrella will do anything. By the way, doing an AMA today somewhere, Reddit, Twitter, I don't know. Mavrella doing an AMA on Tuesday.
I cannot wait to, anyway. Mavrella is awesome. Yeah. But yeah, honestly, we're a week away. A lot of you, we're about 8 days away from the play-in tournament starting, which is, man, just a fun thing that the league puts on. It's just such a, time for all of the league, anyway. But it's just crazy that
I can't believe you still don't think this is going to be fun.
No, listen, it's like a honey bun. You enjoy it in the moment and you're like, this is great. It's fun. And yes, eat the honey bun. But is it good for you overall? No, it's not. And that's how I feel about it. It's like a honey bun. It's like I enjoy the experience in the moment, but it's not good for my overall health and body. So that's just know that when the play-in tournament happens, that's how I'm viewing it. It's like eating a honey bun, like a jumbo glazed honey bun, because it's going to be fun and I will enjoy it, but it's not good for me overall.
The play-in is like a honey bun, but if you had the honey bun and it got you more attention with the opposite gender or whatever gender you associate with, and you had the honey bun, and for weeks on end, you just got more and more attention because of it, either from your significant other or others. And you just got more and more attention by it. And people wanted to be your friend and people wanted to hang out with you. And you became more interesting because you had the honey bun. And then all of a sudden you ate the honey bun and you could share it with others. And all of a sudden you share the honey bun with others and it tastes good and you don't regret it afterwards. That's exactly what kind of honey bun it is.
Are you talking about Built Bar or
you bake the honey buns and everyone smells the aroma and it comes in and all of a sudden you become more interesting? That's the way it's going to go, man. This episode is brought to you by Locker Room. Download the app and join us on Thursday so we can get into all the action. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. All right, Isaac Harris. Today's episode, we are going to break down some scenarios for the Dallas Mavericks. They play a game tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies on Tuesday if you're watching, listening to this. So everything changes on a nightly, daily basis, but we're a daily pod. So these are the ones Tuesday morning that are the scenarios. We're going to talk about all the different ones and break down a little bit from each of them, right? Like if they play the Nuggets, if they play the Clippers, if they play the Suns, if they go in the play-in, all that kind of stuff we'll break down today. But before we get to all that, Tyrell Terry spoke and came out on Instagram and said a couple things. And so I wanted to bring that up. And then also Kristaps Porzingis said some things at practice that I want to get to. Tyrell Terry on his Instagram. This is from Callie Kaplan on Twitter. She brought him up. Tyrell Terry posted a couple things. The first one was, the Lord gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. So he's been going through something for sure. He's been out for months and months now with just personal reasons. That's the only thing we've heard and the only thing we've seen from Tyrell Terry, Mavs rookie. The other thing, he said, back and better than before. This is on his Instagram. I will see y'all soon. And then the last thing he said was, so appreciative of all the support and my messages. Love the MFFL Nation. So hopefully Tyrell Terry, everything's going well with him. I'm sure we'll find, when he comes back, I'm sure we'll find out what has been going on with him. But it was great to hear from him. Great to see that he's going to be coming back. And he said better than ever. So I'm going to take his word for it.
Yeah, I like the last thing you said too. I'm hoping that the majority of messages and people reaching out to him and fans have been positive and
Yeah.
supportive during this time, and not a yeah. We all know social media can be a little hostile at times.
Yeah, absolutely. So we heard from Tyrell Terry. The other thing is we heard from Rick Carlisle and Kristaps Porzingis after Mavs practice. And Rick Carlisle said that Wednesday is the target date to get KP back. So if you listen to this on Tuesday, that's tomorrow. So that is a really good sign. Tomorrow against the Pelicans, he should, on the second night of a back-to-back, he should be coming back and hopefully play the rest of the season, right? Play that Pelicans game, the Raptors, and then the Timberwolves. That would be absolutely a win for the Mavericks. He also said that KP has returned to activity 10 days ago. He returned to basketball activity. So he's been working and doing some stuff. It's not like he's just going to go straight cold from the bench and not doing anything to playing. And so I thought that was pretty positive. He's already listed as out for today's game against the Grizzlies. Maxi Kleber is listed as questionable for this Grizzlies game. By the time you're listening to this, you may know his status.
Yeah, I mean, getting KP back. I mean, that's one of the big things we've been. We joked a week or so ago, 4 game. I joked and saying he would get 4 games in.
You did not joke. That was your prediction. That was a
okay. Well, prediction. I was 1 game off, and if he plays the final 3 games, I thought he would play 4 games.
And mine was 2 games, so it would be right in the sweet spot, right in the sweet spot where neither of us win.
Will he play the final 3 games? I don't know. We have to see how it plays out on Wednesday. We got to see what Dallas wants to do over the last 2 games. What if they go out and win these next 2 on Tuesday and Wednesday? Let's say they do lock in a top 6, a top 6 seed at that point. We don't know what's going to be at stake come Sunday. We don't know. I mean, the league is putting all the games on Sunday within a certain time frame. So it looks like they're trying to eliminate any of the there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching, but if they're at different times, then we have people, setting and resting and all of that. So it's going to be a wild few hours because there's going to be a couple seedings and matchups up for grabs on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. That's going to be a wild time. The other thing is Kristaps Porzingis came out and he spoke to the media for the first time in 3 weeks? It's been a while since we've heard from Porzingis since he's been out. And he said a couple of things, and we're actually going to play a clip from him here in a second. But he said that the injury, someone asked him about where his injury actually started. I think it was Tim Cato that asked him where his injury actually started. What was it? Was it the same kind of injury it's been before? He said it started with his ankle. And then he kind of mentioned a little bit that his knee was bothering him. He didn't really go full into that. And he said that this was another contact injury. Someone asked him, I think it was Mac Engel, asked him if he was concerned about playing. And people always ask KP this, especially media members that kind of parachute in every once in a while, and asked him, is this something you're concerned about? Are you concerned about coming back and playing? And it's kind of a weird question to ask a person, right? Are you worried you'll never be able to play basketball again? It just seems like a question that's asked, but he said, no, this was another contact injury. And so that was confirmed that I thought that I didn't necessarily know. It seemed like it was non-contact because we didn't really see a whole lot of him, anything happening to him, but I thought that was notable. And then there's this question about his role. If you want to comment about his injury, we can get into that next.
No, I was just going to say that he's always said that when any response, any question about his durability, he's always mentioned the fact that, a lot of these bigger injuries, they're contact stuff. Even the meniscus thing happened in the bubble. None of these are non-contact injuries that it's just all KP's just falling over. They all have contact things that you can trace it back to. So I think he does have a point with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with him too, especially if this one is contact too. It is starting to add up, right? We are still concerned. It's not like we're not concerned about his injuries and all that. But coming up, I want to hear from Kristaps Porzingis about his role because Brad Townsend asked him about his role on the team. And I want to get into it, hear from Kristaps Porzingis himself because it's kind of hard to hear him at the end of this clip. And we're going to let you guys decide what he said and exactly what he means by this, because some people are taking it some way. If you read the transcript, you're taking it a certain way and has a certain connotation. If you listen to him, it has a certain connotation. So we'll hear from Kristaps Porzingis coming up. But before we do, let's talk about Locker Room. Locker Room is an app that's pretty fun. I jump on there every once in a while and talk to people. Our guy, Sean Coleman from the Locked On Grizzlies, is in every single room always talking. It's fun to hear from. I listened to Mark Stein and Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report. I listened to them for a good 30 minutes or so during an NBA game the other day that I was watching. And so I got to hear about his whole process of, writing that article about Nate Bjorkgren and the whole Pacers coaching. And he talked about some of the stories he wrote about Dirk and stuff like that. Locker Room is just a great way to connect with people, connect with sports fans. Download the app. Perfect place to start or join an already existing conversation. You just join a group, and then you can join the MFFL group, NBA group. You can follow me at Nick Van Exit. You can know whenever we go live. Go download the free Locker Room app now. Currently available on iOS devices. And we'll be sure to follow me at Nick Van Exit. Notify when we go live. Can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts on the Dallas Mavericks and everything, I guess. And to hear your questions about free agency, because that's always the questions we get. Yep. See you there. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into this conversation and this question that Kristaps Porzingis was asked about his role. And we'll hear from Brad Townsend. He's the voice you're going to hear first, and then we'll hear from Kristaps Porzingis about it.
Or power forward, which you did some of last year too. But what is kind of the biggest adjustment for you, really having to go back and forth between the two positions? How comfortable are you doing that, if that's what's needed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, it is. I don't know. It doesn't matter as much, maybe, because me and Dwight, we talk on a court. Dwight's great, communicating stuff, and sometimes I'm the trailer, he's the trailer, and so on, and there's some. I mean, it is what it is, and we're trying to make it work, and I hope I'll have my opportunities within the offense.
All right, so that is Kristaps Porzingis, and the last statement there, and Brad Townsend had this, and he tweeted it out, and the last statement that Porzingis said is the one that is kind of in question between Isaac and I and some other people too, because Brad took it as it is what it is. When Kristaps Porzingis was asked about his role, it is what it is, and we try to make it work and hope I'll have my opportunities in the offense. Now, let's move back a little bit, because with Porzingis, this is a question about Dwight Powell has been playing center. He's been starting and playing center. And even when Porzingis came back recently, he played the 4 next to Dwight, who was playing the 5. Now, we talked about this all last year about how Dwight plays the 5 on offense and he plays the 4 on defense. And Porzingis plays the 4 on offense and the 5 on defense and all that kind of stuff. But how does he feel about it this season? And how does he feel about this change, this transition, and dealing with, this kind of a change in role, I guess, for Porzingis, because he's pretty particular about some of this stuff.
He definitely is. Yeah, he's expressed that, after games, he's expressed that, after practices, that he likes playing the 5. He likes offensively playing the 5 too. There's just it opens up and gives him a lot more flexibility of what he can do offensively. And even when he says this, that one of the, the big things with being the 5 is, you're the trailer a lot, and you take the ball out of bounds normally after a made basket, you come down and you catch the ball, and the offense, kind of just goes through you like that. The 4th, the 4 in the offense, a lot of times you're standing in the corner, and that's just how they're kind of, running that offense stuff. So a little bit more, options, flexibility when he's playing the 5. And yeah, I mean, I'm curious on what they do, because we've seen Luka play very, very well when he plays with the roller, whether it's Dwight or Willie. But KP likes playing a 5 too, and it just gives you a different type of look. And hey, worst comes to worst, like, you have options like that. That's the cool thing about it, is, hey, you have options when you're looking at it from a bird's eye view of it. But there's also players' opinions and players, comfortability and all of that you're navigating too as a coach. So I think, honestly, I think they'll go back to KP at the 5 and, Dorian or Maxey at the 4.
I think they will too. That's what they've tried to lean in. That starting lineup with KP at the 5, Maxey at the 4, Dorian, Richardson, and Luka has been really good. That lineup has been really good, even if it hasn't necessarily been great to start games. We've seen recently that they've kind of struggled, but they have been a good lineup overall. Now, the question with Porzingis is that last sentence, and hope that I'll have my opportunities in the offense. It can sound, if you listen to it, and it's a little bit like blue dress, gold dress kind of deal, right? Where it's kind of like you hear what you hear, or those things where you can listen to something and hear two things. And it depends on your take going into it, I think. Does it sound like he says, I'll have my opportunities to lead the offense? Like, that is a completely different thing then I'll have my opportunities in the offense or to be in the offense or something. And I tried to analyze it and tried to lip read it and tried to go through it all, and I just can't tell. And so I guess I'm going to go with what Brad Townsend said here. But if Porzingis did say have my opportunities to lead the offense, kind of goes with some of the other stuff we've been thinking about Porzingis. He wants a bigger role. He wants to be featured, all that kind of stuff. And it makes it just adds a little bit more friction of Porzingis coming back and him and Luka and all that. So we're taking out the microscope again on this one, right? Like we've done all season, and we've been fully admitting that we are taking out the microscope in this because we want to know what Porzingis actually thinks. He says, what he thinks at times, and he's been critical, or he's been specific about where he wants to play in the offense. And he's told things to the media that he's told to coaches and all that. So this is another opportunity I think that we're going to take to say, well, what did you say though? Did you say you want to lead the offense at times? Which I guess is fine if Luka is out, but what did he really mean by that even further if we want to take that another step forward?
Even how he answered this question. I mean, you guys can go back on, if you're watching on YouTube or go push
pauses, man. Like Brad put that pause in there on the transcript on purpose.
But like you seen him on that, go push the 30 seconds back on whatever podcast. If you're listening to Odyssey app, or if you're
watching on YouTube, you can see the clip.
Yeah, just go back and rewatch it and just, you can see how he's answering. I mean, it's like, okay, we know
Dwight's great. Dwight's great. He's great at communicating. I love playing with Dwight. Nothing against Dwight.
It really isn't a Dwight thing. You can just tell that, he wants to say, I freaking want to play 5. And that's where, I mean, he said that before, how much he likes playing the 5. So, but he's also wanting to, be a good teammate on it too. And so I'm curious to see what that looks like, once he comes back on Wednesday. Hopefully he comes back on Wednesday and, going into the playoffs. And a lot of it depends on, and maybe we can, transition into playoff stuff right now, but a lot of that goes into what matchups, they can match up with. And when you look at where Dallas is sitting right now in the standings, you're pretty much looking at 3 different teams right now that they could possibly match up against. You're looking at Denver, you're looking at the Clippers, and you're looking at Phoenix if they slip down to that, play-in tournament and they land at 7. Drastically, things have to go drastically wrong if they're in the 8th spot.
Well, they could be in the 8th spot, and let's get into this now. The scenarios for the Dallas Mavericks: they stay in 5. There's no shot they're going to move up to 4. Right? That's impossible at this point. No. There's just not enough games left. It won't happen. So the Mavericks will either be at 5. That's their highest point, which they're at right now, which is cool. And it would be a step up from last season where they finished 7th. They'd be at 5. They would move down to 6, and Portland would move up. They can move down to 7 and be in the play-in. If the Lakers win a couple more games and the Blazers, again, have to win their games too. They could be in 7, and then they could lose the first game of the play-in and then win the second game, and boom, they could be the 8th seed in the play-in. So that's the scenario right there. So there's a couple of things where the Mavericks control their own destiny. If they win out, if they win these next 4 games, then they're staying in 5th. There's no way that the Blazers can move up.
Yes, correct. I mean, they win a couple more games, then you're looking at, the top 6, for sure. I think when you look at potential matchups, the only 2 teams you can really rule out, besides the play-in teams, is they're not going to play the Blazers. They're not going to play the Lakers in the round 1. And
yeah, right. So, or the 8th seed, or, like Warriors or.
Yeah. So they're not playing those. They're still, we're 4 games out 4 games out from the end of the season, and there's still a world that they could play 4 different teams in the first round.
Not even just considering the play-in, right? They could play the Warriors, Grizzlies, Spurs in the play-in if things happen a certain way.
Because right now, like Nick said, Utah has or like you can see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, Utah has a 2-game lead over Phoenix. So if they just maintain that, then Phoenix will lock in that that 2 seed, because the Clippers, they're 3 games back. And there's still a world that Denver could pass up the Clippers and move up to 3. They're just a game back.
We're also recording this during the Utah Jazz Warriors game. Right now it's 3rd quarter and the Warriors are up by 10. So that number may be a little different than it actually is by the end of the night. So, and we're also recording during the Blazers and Rockets game. I'm going to assume the Rockets are going to lose that game and the Blazers are going to win that game. So the Mavericks would be a half game up on the Blazers, and then the Suns would be a game and a half back from the Jazz if the Jazz do lose this game. But anyway, wanted to be fully clear on that. This is what the standings look like then.
Yeah.
Everything changes so much, man. It's so wild. So coming up, let's get into some different scenarios. We'll take a little bit longer to talk through the matchups and what it actually means for the Mavericks and all that, and get into that coming up. But before we do, rockauto.com is the place to go get some auto parts. You can get carpet, you can get windshield wipers, all kinds of stuff. We have to change our windshield wipers and all that, and we're going to use rockauto.com. I can just go find the make, the model, the year of my car, and find the exact ones that'll fit. I don't know a ton about cars. You might not either. And so you need to know the exact parts that are going to fit for your car. There's so many makes and models of cars right now. There's so many different kinds of parts. You need to know exactly what's going to fit, because you don't want to have to buy something and then it doesn't fit, and then you have to take it back, and you probably never do, because it was like what? It was pretty inexpensive, because rockauto.com's prices are so low, and so you're like, well, I guess it doesn't matter. And so, all that kind of stuff. But with Rock Auto, the way that they sort everything, the way that their catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate, you can get the exact right parts for your car. Go to rockauto.com, see all the parts available for your car or truck, write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Also want to tell you about betonline.ag. If you've ever thought, man, I kind of am interested in this game, but I wish that there was a little bit more of an incentive. For us, we decided we want to get into the Premier League, and so we wanted to put a little bit on it. And so we were like, okay, let's pick a team. And then all of a sudden we'll be invested. Well, if that doesn't work for you, then put some money down on it. And then you'll get invested right away, right? As soon as there's money and there's stakes, then you'll be able to enjoy it in a completely different way. BetOnline.ag has all that stuff for you. All different kinds of ways you can put down money on sports. Let's see if they have some odds for NBA games tomorrow. If you're like, man, I want to sit down and watch an NBA game, but I want a little bit more on it. Mavericks versus Grizzlies right now. The game that is going to be on Tuesday. Mavs 2-point favorite over the Grizzlies. That one's pretty interesting. A couple other ones that stick out. Suns 5-point favorite over the Warriors. That one really stands out as one that the Suns should come out, especially after that loss to the Lakers. They should be wanting some revenge. And so this may be a trap right here. But Suns actually could, the Warriors need this game, and so they may want to come out and blah, blah, blah. Lakers, 5.5-point favorite over the Knicks. How is that one? The Knicks, man, that team does not mess around. This is going to be like an 88-87 game, right? These two teams play incredible defense. So that'll be a really interesting one to watch. Bet Online, use the promo code Locked On and get a 50% welcome bonus to your first deposit. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's go through some of these scenarios. So let's start with the first one. This is probably the most likely one if the Mavericks take care of business and if everything stays the same. Then the Mavericks would play the Denver Nuggets. What's the first thing that stands out against the Denver Nuggets? The Mavericks play the Nuggets, and your first thought is what?
No Jamal Murray. This is the world that if you say what's in this scenario, what's the dream play out of what happens over the next few weeks? For me, for a Dallas angle, it's Dallas lands at 5, Denver at 4. Lakers win that first play. Lakers make the play-in, and the league pulls all their cards to make sure they win. And the Lakers win. You
just got to throw that in there every time.
Yeah, of course. And the Lakers play the Suns, and then we get like a Utah Golden State, first round. To where if you I get that
in that scenario, the Lakers lose, or
no? Well,
no, the Lakers would be 7, and the Warriors would end up being 8.
Yeah, to where if you had on one side of the Western Conference playoffs, Phoenix, the Lakers, Clippers, and Portland.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's leave them over there, and let's play our hand with Denver. And so I think that's the dream scenario. I get it. Denver is still a really good basketball team. Utah is really good. We're just like picking out the whatever. But for Denver, I would be so curious on how that series plays out, because no Jamal Murray, like we said. If KP's fully healthy, what does this look like? They went 2-1 against Denver this season. KP, the last game, had 25 points against them. The first game of the season, Luka had 38. That second game, he had 35. KP, they didn't have KP for just one of those games. So KP has played in 2 of those games against Denver this season. So Denver seems like they always do play Luka pretty well. But and honestly, it's setting up, if they play, okay, answer this. If they play Denver the first round of the playoffs, there's not a scenario in which they lose that first round and fans are like saying, okay, I get it.
with it, right? Like
Yeah.
Jokic should have to go off for like 50 and 15 and be like,
Would Dallas be
wow.
favored?
No, I don't think so. I don't think. I mean, they might be favored at home, right? They may be favored on those home games, like game to game, if you're talking. But I don't think they'd be favored in the series.
If Dallas wins out,
the Nuggets are going to have
healthy.
the MVP, right? Like the Nuggets are going to have the MVP, and so that's going to be. If you're talking about betting lines and being favored and all that, you're talking about okay, what does the public look at and they say, oh, they have the MVP, they should be favored.
That's true. If Dallas wins out, they win these next 4 games, and KP's fully healthy going to the playoffs. Like the expectation is going to be there for them to win that series.
Oh, for sure. From Mavs fans and from us, probably. Would you expect them to win that series?
Yeah, I would.
I would too. Porzingis or not, I think.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I wouldn't go that far. I think you have to have a healthy KP in that series.
Or just a KP. I mean, are we getting a healthy KP, right? Like, I don't know if that's an option at this point.
Yeah.
He's going to be a version of himself in play. Unless something happens over the next 3 games.
And I'm only saying that about Denver just because of the Jamal Murray thing. I love the makeup of their team, but if you had to pick a team to play in the first round, you're going to pick the team who's missing their, second star. So that's
and Michael Porter Jr., all of a sudden he has to step up and be in a bigger role. Can he do that? Can the Mavericks handle him better than they would be able to handle Jamal Murray? Probably, right? Like remember all those times in the bubble last year when Jamal Murray was killing Porzingis off pick and rolls, right? That won't happen anymore. It's Facu Campazzo instead, right? Like that, I'm okay with that. It's Monte Morris instead. I'm okay with that. Aaron Gordon, is he going to be able to handle Luka? No, right? Like, is he going to be handle Luka better than Gary Harris? I don't know, man. Gary Harris is really good on Luka, and so all of a sudden, like that's a wash, I think, because Gary Harris played Luka really well defensively.
Yeah, Torrey Craig did back in the day too. I thought he was okay.
Yeah, and he's gone too. He's on the Suns.
Yeah, he's gone. So now you go to the Clippers on this. There's still a world that they could land at 5 and still have to play the Clippers at 4, or they move down to 6. There's still a world they match up with the Clippers in the first round. Clippers, same as Denver. They went 2-1 against the Clippers. First matchup, they beat the Clippers by 50 in that game.
That was without Porzingis and without Kawhi, by the way. I want to keep pointing that out because that was like forever ago. How long ago was that game?
It doesn't even seem like it was this season at all. The second time they played the Clippers, they lost that game. Luka puts up a triple-double, massive triple-double in that game. But it was a back-to-back. That second game that they played the Clippers, Luka had 42 points in that series. Yeah. Luka has shown when he plays the Clippers, Kawhi, Paul George, it doesn't matter who's throwing at him. The dude can still put up points at a high level.
Everly, man, no shot.
No, sorry, Bev. But yeah, I'll be really that series would be wild, and especially
Clippers are rolling right now.
They're rolling, and the rematch, everything will be about, that Luka game winner will be shown probably 58 times from the playoffs. And just, I think the motivation for Dallas in that series of, they'll be telling themselves all over again. It's like, man, we could have beat these guys last year. They know they can beat them. They beat them twice this year, like we said. So that series would just be fascinating. I would have so much more emotions in that series because I would want to beat those guys so dang bad.
2 big changes for the Clippers. Reggie Jackson is all of a sudden so important for them, right? He's all of a sudden like their starting point.
Luka?
That's what I'm saying. He's their starting point. They're going to run that. They would run all kinds of like screens and all kinds of stuff. David Locke called me today and told me a whole bunch of numbers about Luka and the pick and roll. Like he's the most efficient pick and roll player with of the top 10 most efficient pick and roll partners. Luka accounts for 4 of those. He's the only one that shows up 4 times on that list, which is pretty wild. And one of those pairings is him and Tim Hardaway Jr. And you're like, hold on, Luka and Tim Hardaway Jr. as a pick and roll pairing? Yes, that they have used that essentially only as Luka getting a mismatch on whoever is guarding Tim Hardaway Jr. And if that was Reggie Jackson, they're going to run that over and over again until they get rid of that guy or put him on the bench. So there's that angle to it. The other angle with the Clippers, it's Rondo time, right?
Yes,
like Rondo is so important for them too. He has taken them to kind of another level. He's barking all the time on the bench. And imagine Ty Lue with Rondo just standing next to him and all the glare shots we're going to get on TNT of Rick Carlisle just looking over at Rondo and being like, I hate your guts. I hate your back. I hate.
And
everything.
they're going to put him in to like pester Luka too.
True, and that they'll do that, and the Mavericks will abuse him on defense, but
we'll just hate him more.
They'll do that, but then that team. To be fair to that team, they've been playing really well. Their offense is incredible. They're just rolling. Kawhi and Paul George. Paul George has been shooting. He has something to prove in the playoffs too. So if he can, I mean, it'd be just a completely different level. The Mavericks don't necessarily even have two players to throw at those guys. It would be Richardson and Dorian, right? Whatever. Yeah. And Maxey probably on Kawhi. Remember, Maxey was really good on Kawhi. If Maxey can be back, so that's what the Clippers. If you talk about the Suns, that's a potential matchup the Mavericks could have if they fall to 7 and are in the play-in, and then they win that first game in the play-in. They play the Suns, and that one's really interesting because they haven't beaten them in the regular season, and Chris Paul just torched them in the clutch a couple of times. And
I was going to say this: they've lost to the Suns all 3 times, but they've all been 6 points or less losses. Yeah. And I think they lost one game by 1, another one by 6, the other one by like 3 or something like that. So it's not like they've gotten blown out, but they've still lost all 3 of those games.
Well, and that first one was like the first game that they had everybody back, right? Remember that was, we were actually encouraged by that game because they were playing so bad.
First game of the season, I think, was the very first time they played.
First game of the season, and they lost by 4. And Luka only had 5 assists in that game. It was, remember, Mikal Bridges was like insane on defense against him. And then the next 2 times they played him were in a row. As soon as the game before they got Maxey back, and then they got Maxey back, and we felt really good about the Mavericks, and they lost by 1. When Booker had that crazy game winner, remember, it was the out of bounds, and they got it to Booker somehow, and Richardson did his best that he just couldn't defend it and all that. So those are close games. So this team is real different since they played them. They played them back January 30th and February 1st was the last 2 times they played them. Like, imagine how much has happened since then. The Mavericks had an 8-13 record after they lost the second game to the Suns. Like, a lot has changed since then.
Rank your Luka defenders that you would rather see: Mikal Bridges, Aaron Gordon, or Paul George.
Man, give me Paul George 1 because Luka's already proven that he can beat that Clippers team, right? Like, every time they play, destroys them. And in the playoffs last year, he did.
Yeah.
Probably Aaron Gordon 2, and then probably Bridges 3. Like, Bridges has been really good against Luka in these matchups.
I think I would swap Aaron Gordon and Paul George, but I think I'd leave Mikal Bridges at that 3rd spot.
I mean, theoretically, you'd put Paul George ahead of Aaron Gordon, but Aaron Gordon's a little bit stronger than Paul George. That works a little bit better against Luka. We haven't necessarily seen a motivated Aaron Gordon against Luka, right? Like, we've seen Aaron Gordon on the Magic against Luka. So we haven't really seen that. Did he play? I can't even remember Aaron Gordon the last time the Mavs played the Nuggets.
No, he wasn't on the Nuggets when they played.
Is he not?
Denver. No, we just had to look at some Orlando matchups. But who wants to watch the Magic?
Yeah, March 13th is the last time they played the Nuggets. So the Jazz, I mean, we can talk about them briefly, but the Mavericks had a real prove-it game against the Jazz recently, and that was a really big one. The Mavericks, and the key to that series is Dorian, right? Like, I mean, we're going to say that over and over again. It'll be brought up over and over if they do end up facing the Jazz. Dorian will be the key. Can he hit threes? And he's been really hot recently, so that's been huge for him.
He'll be a kind of a low-key in a potential Denver series too, because they'll probably put Jokic on him, and they'll probably say, hey, and not that Jokic is Rudy Gobert defensively, but if you can it's more movement. Anytime you play Jokic, you just want to get him going, moving, keep on having him moving. And so if he's guarding Dorian and Dorian's hit a couple threes, he's going to have to stay out there, at least contest those threes every single time. So yeah, Dorian's going to be a key.
If the Mavericks beat the Nuggets in the first round, do we call them the We Believe Mavs because they beat the MVP? Is that
no?
Do we bring that back up?
We don't go that low.
Not at all. We won't go that low. There you go. That's some scenarios. They're pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff that can change between now and then, but those are the 4 most likely. And
what's the worst? I meant to ask you this. What's your worst case scenario for how it plays out going into the playoffs?
I mean, the worst case scenario is they lose these last 3 games. They end up 7th, and then they have to play the Warriors in a 1 game, right? And then they lose that game, and then they're in their 8th seed. But even then, they play the Jazz, and I feel a little bit better against the Jazz than I would against the Clippers, to be honest.
I know that's the thing. I think definitely the worst is going to the play-in. Yeah. And then it's a matter of, okay, worst case scenario, they win the first game of the play-in. They play the Suns in round 1, and then they get the Clippers or Lakers in round 2. And it's like The Lakers move up to 5. The Clippers fall down to 4. And now you're in place of Portland on that side of the bracket with Phoenix and the LA teams. You're like,
yeah,
well,
true.
This sucks. So that's the worst case, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Let us know what's the best and worst case scenario for the Mavericks coming up. And then what did you think about Porzingis' comment about his role? Tell us all that. Follow us on Twitter at LockedOnMavs, at Nick Van Exit. That is verified, by the way. I don't know if you guys know. And also follow Isaac L. Harris. That's just like a peasant account.
Not verified.
Has no check mark.
I wasn't good enough, guys. I'm sorry.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.